The waitress in Here We Are sings a song about how everything is what it is. And she sings, the boof, that is actual boof. That's a minor sixth. If I just make it major, it's priest. Have a little priest. Again, here's a kind of meat.
Shalom, I'm David Benkoff, the Broadway Maven. Here, Broadway Maven co-host Mateo Chavez Lewis examines the score of Stephen Sondheim's last musical, Here We Are. He finds echoes of at least 6 previous Sondheim scores.
Here We Are is Sondheim's final musical. He talks a lot about experiencing like a writer's block, because the major question he keeps saying is, I don't know why these characters are singing. The show is this like absurdist, surrealist piece about a group of rich, privileged people who are trying to find a place to have dinner. And the apocalypse ensues, basically. Sondheim has repurposed or reused a lot of things that are reminiscent of or direct copies of his previous scores. So the question is he doing this intentionally because he knows it's his last musical and he wants to pay tribute to the career that he's had? Or is he doing it unintentionally because he's got writer's block and doesn't know what else to write? I'm going to take you through a few moments in the score, and then I'm going to tell you, based on what I've seen in the score, which one of those two I think is the case. And in his, 80s and 90s when he was writing this. The very main theme of Here We Are, it's the first piece of music you hear in the entire score. It, is the overture. It's a motif that keeps coming back, and it defines the score of Here We Are, and it sounds like this. That keeps coming back throughout the entirety of the score, and it's like the Here We Are theme. That melody is to Here We Are as as that is to Sweeney Todd, or as is to Merrily We Roll Along. It's like the main theme that keeps coming back throughout the show over and over and over and over and over again. That melody is exactly something that is sung in the title song of Company. In Company, they're all badgering Bobby on his answering machine, and Bobby, baby, Bobby, booby, Bobby, Robert, Angel, we've got something to tell you. Then one of the husbands sing Frank and Mary get into town tomorrow. Bobby dear, you know how I hate the opera. That is exactly note for note for note the exact same as the central Here We Are melody. There are a few Sunday in the Park with George echoes that I heard. One of the first ones is a fascinating one, which is that one of the main themes used in Here We Are is this that kind of keeps coming up every time they are on the road looking for a place to have dinner. And it's defined by these two perfect fifths that go upwards and that are one semitone apart. The vamp for Everybody Loves Louie sounds like this. Again, perfect fifth, one semitone apart. Again, not exactly the same, because this, the Here We Are version, the perfect fifths go up. Ba-dum, ba-dum. And in Everybody Loves Louie, they go down. But otherwise, they're exactly the same. If I play a different bass note, it's exactly the same as. And if I flip the order of the perfect fifth. So again, not exactly the same, but very, very similar. But not exactly the same. That's the key. The vamp of the Soldier song sounds something like this. So the time signature is 12-8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Boom, 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 boom. And it's characterized by this like arpeggio, so this broken up chord. Whatever it may be, I don't know what it exactly is. And then hitting a chord on top. So arpeggio, hit. Arpeggio, hit. And the chord itself is basically a C major 13 chord, a major 13 chord, which is the same chord and the same rhythm used in Children and Art in Sunday in the Park with George. The difference, again, it's not exactly the same. The difference is in the voicing. The difference is in which notes are played when. In the Soldier song, it's something like that. In Children and Art, it's just voiced differently. The notes are in a different order, but they are the same notes and the same rhythm. So again, not exactly the same, very, very similar. Sweeney Todd. This one is the connection is very obvious. The waitress in Here We Are sings a song about how everything is what it is. And she sings, the boof, that is actual boof. That's a minor sixth. If I just make it major, it's priest, have a little priest. Again, here's a kind of meat that I'm going to serve you. Again, same idea, slightly different, right? It's a minor sixth in Here We Are. It's a major sixth in Sweeney Todd. Is there anything from Into the Woods? Of course, yes, there is. The example that I found is Fritz sings this song near the beginning where she's like lambasting all of these rich people whose heads are so far up their own ass. And she goes like, it's the end of the world and the world of underpaid teachers and overpaid actors. And then she sings, it's all so over, don't you know that? Act 2 of Into the Woods opens with a song where they all sing, we're so happy, on the exact same notes, which is in Into the Woods, it's used because that major seventh is like kind of a dissonant interval. It's reaching up to the full octave, but it doesn't quite get there. So it feels incomplete in a way. And so the music is telling us that they're not actually happy, even though they're singing the words, we're so happy. But then those exact same notes are used in Here We Are, when Fritz is telling these rich, happy, shallow people who think that they're happy that actually their whole way of life is a sham. There's a similarity between the score of Roadshow and Here We Are. In Roadshow, in the song Go Get Out, he sings, No, this isn't the end. On that melody. In Here We Are, the soldier sings in almost exactly this melody. It's the end of the world. So there's one note difference. Instead of it's so it's not exactly the same, but it's very, very similar. And it's talking about a very similar idea, right? In Roadshow, he's singing This Isn't the End, and then in Here We Are, he's singing This Is the End of the World. In the opening number of Passion, they sing that that we ever should have met is that we ever should have met is a miracle. No, inevitable. And they sing a whole section where they keep landing on these three notes. Those are three notes from the minor 7 chord. That's a minor 7 chord. In Here We Are, when the soldier and Fritz first get together, they sing I want only to be with you, live with you, die with you, which is a minor 7 chord. Is the same three notes. And so again, not exactly the same, because instead of landing on those three notes, we're just repeating those three notes themselves. But again, a very similar musical idea in a situation that is very similar. Giorgio and Clara singing about how they're in love and they just want to be together all the time and that they ever should have met is a miracle. And then Soldier and Fritz singing, I want only to be with you, live with you, die with you. Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe not. Is Sondheim intentionally paying tribute to himself or unintentionally ripping himself off because he's devoid of inspiration? I think the answer is a little bit of both. He definitely is not unaware of the similarities. He knows his own scores very, very well. He puts so much thought and energy into every single note in every single one of his scores. There's no way he just didn't notice that he was doing this. That being said, there are times where it's a little slightly different or slightly off, or the connection is not super clear, and it feels a little bit more like he's just taking something that he knows works because he doesn't know what to write. People, in order to break out into song, people have to really care. They have to be really, really invested. You can have a movie about an apathetic character who, you know, goes through his life and doesn't really care and maybe gets smacked around by his life and then wakes up. You can't have a musical like that. Because why would a character who's so apathetic break out into song? Even in shows where there's a character who seems apathetic, like Bobby and Company. Bobby and Company is not apathetic. And we know that because he starts singing about his feelings. He really does want to figure out how to open himself up. And he really does want to be connected to somebody. He just doesn't know how, and he doesn't know what that looks like. But he really does care. And he really is committed to finding the answer to this question, figuring this thing out about life. He really does care. Possibly, the issue with Here We Are is that the characters are so rich and privileged, and that's the thing that we're kind of satirizing. But it's hard for those characters to care so much about finding a place to eat lunch that they're going to break out into song. And so Sondheim has said in interviews before he passed away about writing Here We Are that he was like, I just don't get why these characters are singing. I think he figured out, during the process that actually it might not be the best fodder for a musical. And that's why people say it's his unfinished musical and he didn't finish writing the score because he didn't write any of the songs in Act 2 that they had planned. But also, the reason he didn't write those songs was because he was having a really hard time writing those songs, because he was like, I don't know what these characters care enough about to sing about. And so in some ways, it felt complete, even though there's 0 new songs or 1 new song in Act 2. It's just because the characters don't care that much. And so, on the one hand, it is his last musical, and he probably is aware of the fact that he is paying tribute to himself by using all of these motifs and things that he's introduced in his past scores. But also, even the great Stephen Sondheim can't make a completely original and compelling musical out of people who don't care about things. And I think that there's a big lesson there to learn about what makes a good musical. Even in his very last musical, Sondheim is still teaching us lessons.
Please like and subscribe. Marquee, the Broadway Maven's Weekly Blast, comes out every Thursday. It includes piano talks, news, reviews, videos, Broadway blasts, quizzes, and more. Get Marquee for free and learn about all classes and projects at thebroadwaymaven.com. And here's a video I think you'll like.